Why should the indictment matter? And why should the released charges matter today in the arraignment? I can only be talking here for myself. I think it should matter to the left. It matters to me as a lefty because primarily what it shows is, in my view, the total weakness of the liberal state. I mean, here we have a situation where a guy who, just to give you some background, Donald Trump routinely contracted with members of the working class and then stiffed them on the bill, forcing them to sue so they could collect pennies on the dollar. This is how he conducted business in New York, how he conducted business in Atlantic City. This is a guy who hired undocumented labor but wouldn't provide them with housing, so he had them sleep on site, meaning the construction site when they built one of his buildings. This is a guy who did business with the mafia. This is a guy who arranged for basically sweetheart business deals or bribes, whatever, to be paid to his companies and to his family. This is a guy who violated the Constitution and who violated the authorization for military force. This is a guy who sent people to die in Africa and killed people. He has done many, many bad things, and if he's not a racist himself, then he trafficked in racist language. I have no special love for the guy, but he could have been nailed 50,000 times over. The fact that it's taken so long to indict him is itself an indictment. And even worse, this particular indictment is almost meaningless. As I said before, he was indicted for false business records, which is, filing false business records is ordinarily a misdemeanor. From what I'm told, it can rise to the level of a felony, which is what they're charging him with here. He's supposedly guilty of a felony because he filed it, according to the Manhattan DA, he filed it to cover up a crime. As I described before, the crime is that his lawyer paid off Stormy Daniels so that Stormy Daniels wouldn't talk about his client's sexual relationship. The payoff itself, by the way, is not a crime. That's not a crime. The problem was that Cohen did it to help his client's campaign, and so he had to disclose that as a contribution, a political contribution, because as described in one of my last videos, if you do anything to help a campaign that has monetary value, that's something that has to be disclosed as a donation or a contribution. Anyway, so that was the crime. In other words, it was somebody else's crime. As far as I know, unless Donald Trump used money from the campaign, money that was given to him for his campaign, unless he used that money to pay off Cohen, to reimburse Cohen, then no crime was committed by Donald Trump. The crime was Cohen's. Let's just be clear now, because he's not been charged, and he hasn't been charged, Donald Trump that is, he hasn't been charged with using political contributions to pay off Stormy Daniels. What he's being charged with is that by filing the reimbursement, this already sounds dull, but filing the, granted, it's not the most exciting subject in the world, guys, but this is why it's relevant that we dig through this. Because this is the very definition of weak sauce, okay? He's not being charged with the actual crime. He's being charged with not calling it not calling somebody else's crime a crime under his records. By reimbursing his attorney and then putting it down as a legal expense, they're charging him with a crime. As opposed to what he should have, I don't know what should he have labeled that? I don't know if a business record, I don't know if that would be satisfied by calling it hush money. Is that a category on the business records? I don't know. But that's what he's being charged with. So, again, on the totem pole of charges, this is weak sauce. This is really stupid. And that's why it matters, because it shows that the Democrats are, and the liberals and the state in general, they're not willing to hold someone to account in a way that would be systemically challenging. They want to preserve the status quo. They want to preserve the ability of a former president to commit crimes while in office. So what did they charge him with? The weirdest, weakest crime they can think of, because they don't want to have somebody be held to account for war crimes. They don't want the former president to be held to account for violating the Constitution. They don't want to hold politicians or billionaires accountable for corruption. They just don't. And this is a problem. And that's what this demonstrates, is the moral bankruptcy of the system, the lack of ethics in the liberal state that we find ourselves in, the lack of accountability. And, it shows that we're in trouble. We are in deep trouble, because this guy could do virtually anything, and he's going to get nailed for a clerical error, right? So I think it's pathetic, and I think it goes to show how pathetic liberals are and how pathetic the state is. And so those are my thoughts. But to follow up on what I said before, what I said was more or less accurate. He's being charged with a felony or felonies over business records. And the theory has to do with the record supposedly covering up a crime. It's not clear whether that could be his crime. Ostensibly, it would be his crime. So let me explain how this is supposed to work. Fat Tony comes into your neighborhood, takes over the pizzeria. It becomes Fat Tony's Pizzeria. He uses it to launder his extortion money. He uses it to launder his drug money, right? That's a federal crime. It's called racketeering, because he's using that legitimate business as a front to wash his money. Now, when he claims, if this is in New York State, when he lists that as a legitimate business and lists expenses, etc., profits and expenses on his business records, he's really filing a false business record, because that's not what the business is for. The business is actually a front. It's not a real business. That's probably why the statute can rise to a felony. This is not racketeering. This is billionaires doing business. This is a guy who bribes somebody and then decided to list it as an expense because he paid off his attorney. He should have just eaten the money, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, I just think that this is really stupid. And the relevancy to the left is that it shows that elites in this particular hierarchical system that we live in are never going to properly hold themselves accountable. So that's it for this video. And as usual, give me your feedback, and I will be making other videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.